Okay, the neat thing about the center tool that we were just talking about that I showed you is it usually comes with an Allen wrench, so you can set the depth of the groove you want it to put in your wood. You just take the Allen wrench, stick it in there, and you can turn it in, and it'll give you a deeper groove if you can't see it, or you basically just want a light scoring of it so you can see what's going on. So I'm going to go ahead and score this, get my center on this here. The best, simplest tool, you can make one of these too out of a couple pieces of wood if you need to. Just anything with a pin in it and a center to it is going to work just fine. I'm also going to center my elevators. Now you can always just draw on there too, find your marks by just drawing, take a tape measure or a ruler and just get your 1/4 inch piece of wood, just half of that is an eighth, and I just snapped our piece right off. So I will just glue that back on. That wasn't a good thing, and that wasn't a planned thing to do. So you can now see the travesty has already taken place in the model, and instead of crying, I'll just glue it back together, no big deal. Maybe I'll cry. I gotta cry. I'm gonna turn off the camera. Okay, I'm done crying. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take some Zap, some CA, put it back on my split part here, and I'm just gonna sop it up a little on both edges. That wasn't really the greatest spot for that to happen to, so be careful when you're making your center, as you just saw. And the reason that wasn't the greatest spot is because I'm going to want to get in there, and now I just put a glue bead on it, but there's a glue bead behind it already anyway. But I want to get in there to make sure that when I put my hinges in, I don't have to carve through that. Well, no big deal when you're carving through it, because I have a slot machine which makes that real easy work. And if anything, that just strengthened that even more, because now there's some more glue in there. So that's a good thing. I don't know if I told you before, make sure you mark your bottoms. A couple B's on the bottom. That and your stabilizer, you want to put a B on that as well. Okay, well I went ahead and marked my centers. So now I'm just going to go through where I'm going to put my hinges. And I'm just going to darken those lines that I made so I can see them clear. It's going to be a hinge or somewhere in there. We'll measure all this out. Somewhere in there. There's going to be 4 hinges all together. Oops, I went right out of the line on that one. Good thing I kind of know what I'm doing. Alright, so that's there. You wouldn't think so by this video, I'm sure. Now when we go to measure out the hinge lines, we'll just put everything right back on the paper. And you want to get your center point lined up on your plan sheet with your center. So now you got your centers. Then you're going to push your stabilizer, or your elevator, I'm sorry, up to your stabilizer. And you're going to just make sure everything's an even amount. Remember the 16th inch gap that we had for the wood in between? That's so the piece can move. And then I'm going to transfer that center mark to this. I'm pretty sure I'm lined up to where I want to be with everything, which I am. I'll just make a center mark here. And then I'm going to take my elevator joiner, and I've already went through and put my center on that. So I got my center on that. And then I'm just going to go ahead and put my center right on here. And then mark where the 2 posts are going to come in. So I'll make a notch there. Notch there, notch there, notch there. So now I got where my joiner wire is going to come through. Now when you go to drill this out, this is an 1/8 piece of joiner wire. So you can just got a straight piece of 1/8. You can bend it up yourself. 3 1/8 in long and 1 9/16. So this is 1 9/16 for the depth of it, and it's 3 1/8 inch long altogether from outside edge to outside edge. So now that we know where those marks are going to be, I'm just going to transfer them up a little better on the piece. So now I'll know where my hinges got to go, and they won't interfere with the joiner wire that I'm going to put in here. Which wasn't a bad thing while this cracked anyway, because I'll be cutting this all out anyway, and the joiner wire is what's going to be holding everything together. So now I've got those. I'm going to come over to the front of it, and I'm going to go right down here on my elevator, and I'm going to mark right where the centers or the joiner wire is going to be. So now the center is going to be, I've already put the center mark before I snap my elevator in half. So I'll take the center of this with an 1/8 inch drill bit, and I'll drill straight down into both sides of this. And once I get this fit, it's nice and snug to where I want it, you're going to want the back of this to be even with the front part of this. Top of the leading edge, I guess you would say, of the elevator. So once that's nice and even here, just flush with this, that's how deep you want to go into the piece of wood. And you want it even on both sides. And we'll get that all squared away, and then we'll drill our holes for that, and then we're going to sand a bevel on both sides of this, and that'll make it easy for the piece to snug right up next to the stabilizer and move back and forth. And that's how you get your centers for your joiner wire. Same thing, if you want to take the outside edges here, I mean, just like I said, with a piece of wood, I'll give you a measurement even. I'm thinking right about there, so probably 3.5 inches long for your wood dowel would be good. Then just get a center on your wood dowel, and when you cut this piece out, you're just going to notch out this much of it also. So this will be sitting flush up against these formers. If you've got a Dremel, that's great, or a piece of sandpaper. After you cut the initial piece off, then you're going to slice down the edges to where this would fit right in between these, and you're going to epoxy the sides right up next to each side, bottom right up flush. So make sure that when you get your dowel in there, you just draw a line there and draw a line where the other end of the dowel meets. Epoxy this piece right in there. You'll want to sand this down on the inside, the flat part of it, down on the bottom, you know, as close as you can, so when this piece is sitting in here, you basically won't see it except for the round part. It'll be blended right in with the 1/4 by 1/4 piece of wood. And that's a fine way too, because like I said, it'll keep it nice and flat, and that's all we're looking to do.